What's a delicious poor man's meal? Sometimes Little Caesars throws pizzas in the dumpster outside after close. When I was homeless, I dated the night manager at McDonald's. I got a sack of dumpster-bound burgers big enough to feed me for the next 24 hours. And all it cost was having sex with someone I was already having sex with. Randy, you're not going to whore yourself out for cheeseburgers again, are you? A man's gotta eat. A man cannot live by cheeseburger alone. Congee. Add rice and lots of water to a pot. Can keep it plain. Or sprinkle some chicken bouillon powder and fresh ginger slices. Cook until it reaches creamy porridge consistency. Top your bowl with scallions. I make this when I'm feeling sick since it's easy on the stomach. Okay. Here are some tips from my Cantonese grandma who had been doing this for the last 60 years. Marinate them rice in sesame oil overnight in the fridge. Just enough to coat the rice granules. Makes a better consistency. Short grain is best. For a bad time, use basmati brown rice. Scallions are awesome. Coriander is good too if you're one of those lucky people who is blessed with the genes to enjoy them. Deep-fried garlic mince brings all the boys to the yard. If you're feeling rich, throw in a bunch of dried scallops. If you're using dried scallops, don't add any salt until scallop is properly cooked. Dried scallop has quite a lot of salt content, and it all gets released once they soften up. Drop an egg in right at the end and let the heat cook it. Have to be room temperature egg, otherwise it won't cook well enough. Best is when yolk is almost runny. Drop in some Chinese rice wine at the end for something different. If you're feeling lazy, throw it all in a rice cooker with about 3x the amount of water you'll usually use. When it's done, it'll still look like rice, but you'll have to stir it up a little to make them into congee. Add boiling water for desired consistency. If you have to boil them on the stove, use high heat not low. High heat makes it boil and keeps it circulating. Low heat lets it sink to the bottom and hence is more prone to burning. Once it burns, the whole pot of congee is ruined. If you absolutely have to salvage burnt congee, do not scrape the bottom because scraping it will release even more burnt congee. Add lots of ginger garlic to try masking the burnt flavor. But I think you're better off disposing it and chalk it up to lesson learned. Congee is cheap. Life is too short for bad congee. If you have roast duck, save the bones neck. Boil them into a broth and use the broth to make the congee. Add shredded roast duck meat to top it off. If you can get some bacon bones, boil them into a broth and use them to make the congee. Having prawns? Why not save the shell's heads and boil them into broth to make congee? In fact, use any broth to make congee. Better than using water by itself. Chicken bouillon works, but I feel it has less oomph to it. Another way to add flavor is to boil some chicken breast and use the broth to make congee. Shred chicken breast into thin strips to be added later on to congee. This makes a healthier congee with very little chicken fat, lots of protein. Crispy uchiae goes very well with congee. Pepper is good with congee. Doesn't matter black or white. I suggest getting your hands on some Sarawak pepper. They're the best. Some people like their congee spicy. I suggest getting some chili oil and add to your liking. If you like century eggs, it goes very well with congee too. If you don't like century eggs, why not crack in a salted duck egg? If you've got some boiling hot congee, throw in some thinly sliced fresh fish fillet and let the heat cook them away from the stove. We'll almost always cook them to a perfect consistency. We usually use herring fish, but I suppose salmon will work well too. Serve congee in clay pots if you have some. Clay pot retains heat very well and keeps congee hot longer. But if you do the above, I don't think your congee will stay in your bowl for very long. Bonus scallop congee I made in a rice cooker. Doesn't look much, but it tastes amazing. Edit PSA. Grandma pretty much raised me with my parents working crazy hard to keep me clothed, fed, and educated. Congee brings back memories of times when I was too sick to properly stomach solid food. It has become a comfort food now. Grandma died from cervical cancer a few years ago. Ladies, please go get your cervical screening done and your Gardasil vaccination. Cervical cancer is easily preventable these days. Edit 2. I'm glad you guys like these tips. Helps keep memories of my grandma alive. She's everywhere now. She'll be watching you as you sleep. I fucking love congee. I make it easily once a month, either at home or for my crew on the boat. Some crews I've worked with bitch when it's not meat and potatoes every meal. One guy complained because 2 meals in a row had rice. Yeah, Jerry, rice for 2 meals is weird. But bread with every meal isn't. Buttered toast with cinnamon and sugar. We used to keep a pre-mixed container of cinnamon and sugar because we ate this so frequently as kids. And my mom got sick of helping us fix our god-awful proportions. Mom had a little jar with a perforated metal lid that was specifically made for this. It was probably made in the late 50s. And had a very faded label that said, Domino Cinnamon Sugar. Ramen. Drained with no broth. With poor man's pad thai sauce. Mix a tablespoon of peanut butter into a small ramekin. With enough soy sauce and sriracha to be able to thoroughly mix it into a smooth sauce. Dump over the cooked ramen. And baby, you've got a stew going. It tastes good. It's got a bit of protein, bit of fat, bit of carbs, little sweet, little heat. It's not the greatest nutrition you could eat, but it's way better for you than Oreos. And if you want to clean up the macros a little, you can sub PB2F. Or the peanut butter and coconut aminos for the soy. And that'll cut the fat and sodium at least in half. And it's vegan, if you care at all. I've been making basically exactly this. And can't recommend enough adding any kind of acid, whether lemon or lime or whatever. It really turns it up to 11 by making less heavy. And have more complex flavors. Also put an egg on top. Just do it. Spaghetti with oil and garlic. Quick, easy, cheap. White bread garlic toast. This was a main staple when I was growing up. Less because we were broke and more because nobody knew how to cook. Lol. I still love it, to be honest. I take my butter, mix some garlic powder and Italian seasoning into it, spread it on my bread, and throw it in the oven for a few minutes. It ain't fancy, but it's good. I'll do you one better. An Italian classic for I'm hungry at 1 am. And I need something good. Pasta aglio olio e peperoncino. Which translate to pasta, garlic, oil and chili pepper. And it's exactly what the name implies. And it is amazing. My grandma grew up during the Depression. She said her mother served pancakes for dinner so often she got sick of them. And when she left the house, she never ever made pancakes. Similar happened to my dad. My grandma made meatloaf a lot. My dad ended up hating meatloaf and asked my mom to never make it for him. Thus, we never had meatloaf growing up. I learned that I like meatloaf, and I'm sad that I missed out for so long. My husband is the same. He never wants meatloaf, pasta with jarred sauce or macaroni and cheese. He had them weekly growing up, and now he can't stand them. Sucks for my kids though. When my mom was working nights growing up, we had a food schedule my dad followed weekly. Monday, burgers. Tuesday, tacos. Wednesday, hamburger helper. Thursday, pasta with over-seasoned meatballs. Friday, pizza, homemade. And if we were lucky a few times, he would break the mold and get dinner out or something. But it was rare. Edit, formatting. Fried cubes, shredded hash browns, French fries, baked, mashed, broiled, grilled, potato O'Brien, au gratin, scalloped, potato cakes, potato bread, potato puffs, potato launcher. Just chew on it raw, not as much available carbs and calories, but it fills you up the same. If you need to microwave it to bake it, poke holes in it first. They can explode. Had one explode in the oven. I was watching TV and heard the oven door open and slam shut. Looked like someone sprayed mashed potatoes and foil shards all over the oven. Lol. For real though. Lemon potatoes Greek style. Like 8 or 9 parts chicken stock to 1 part lemon juice and zest, oregano, some garlic and onion, salt and pepper. Edit. Also about 1 part olive oil. Oops. Make enough of that mix to roughly cover your potato wedges in a roasting pan. And cook at 370 to 400 for like 35 to 40 minutes. Depending on the starchiness of the potato, add more lemon juice mixed with some water. If the potatoes are still firm once the liquid is halfway gone, so they can still soak up the flavorful liquid while they cook. Bam! As a broke vegan, I can confirm beans are my go-to. They can make soups, toppings, salads, and so on for a very low price. Tonight, for example, I made lentil meatballs to go with my pasta. When I'm feeling lazy, I just cook beans as is. I'm a broke vegetarian, and I pretty much live on chickpeas, curry, soup, fritters, burger patties, salads, chili, baked crunchy snacks. Seitan. Legumes are incredible and so underutilized. This is easily one of our favorite go-to family meals. 1 pound baby lima beans, pot full of water, seasoned with plenty of marjoram, what would seem like too much, and salt, boil, rolling until basically mush. About halfway through boiling, an hour or so, slice and add your favorite sausage. When beans get good and soft, use a spool to mash maybe 1/5 of them or so against the inside of the pot. These further soften, making almost like a gravy. Pour over rice. Done. If you want to spice it up, make some cornbread. Jiffy Mix is actually quite good for a packaged mix and takes very little effort. You can feed a family of 6 for very cheap. Edit. For those wanting to try this, I use Camellia brand baby limas. Not always easy to find locally, but can be ordered online. I've found we like them better than any others. I was a single mom in university. To stretch my budget, I made homemade soups. Every day for years I had homemade soup for lunch and sometimes for dinner too. Do you have any tips for making your own soup? 1 homemade stock, bones, water, apple cider vinegar and salt. I just learned this 1 year ago and the ACV is key. Google stock with ACV and you can get the right proportions. 2 Dry beans are cheaper and better than canned. Check out the video Carla make beans on YouTube. 3 I do a lot of the tedious work ahead of time. I will peel and freeze garlic cloves. I find they are easier to slice thin when they are frozen. I also will cook and freeze other veggies I plan on using so I can stock up when things are on sale. 4 For recipes, my favorite site is allrecipes.com. Edit. Oh wow, thank you for all of the awards. I did not know about pudding akvan soups. Aside from my family's chicken soup recipe, I've tried making a lot of soups and there's always something missing. If you are making a savory recipe and it seems like it is missing something, but you're not sure what, a lot of the time, adding a splash of acidity, vinegar of various types, citrus juice etc. will lift it and be just what it needs. For sweet items, try a pinch of salt. Obviously, use your best judgment. Something already very tart and acidic will need something else, but it works a lot of the time. No original poster, but I make my own stocks and soups all the time. Save all your scraps. Save all your chicken and beef bones in the freezer. Cut an onion. Save the skins. Save the ends of celery stalks, carrot peels, mushroom stems. Collect a nice bag of scraps and then cook them down in a big pot of water. Homemade stock makes a world of difference. Pro tip: roast the bones for 45 minutes or so at 375 degrees while you're waiting for the water in your stock pot to heat up. Also, only add the vegetable trimmings during the last hour of low simmering. Simmer the roasted bones alone for several hours, so as not to boil off the volatile flavor compounds. A friend of mine who's a chef at a local brewery restaurant gave me this tip, and it's especially noticeable if you have pepper tops or seeds in the stock. Before, it was kind of bland, but now, I could actually taste the vegetable contribution. Cream cheese and jam is also really good on a tortilla. Only had a chance because we got cream cheese from the food bank that one time. But damn, I love cream cheese and jam. Gonna try this. Baked potato with cheese and broccoli on top. Buy a pound of baking potatoes, a block of cheese, and frozen bag of broccoli. It'll make you at least 3 to 6 of those. If you're feeling really crazy, then throw in some chili too. Canned chili for hot dogs works best. It can be as cheap as like 50 cents. I came here to say baked potato. I grew up so broke, we had potatoes at least once a day. There are so many ways to make potatoes. Potato cakes were a staple, just mashed potatoes mixed with flour and an egg to bind it, fry that up in some oil. Horrible for you, I'm sure, but it's delicious. Serious answer here. Get a can of black beans and some cheap salsa. Put the drained beans and some salsa in a skillet and let it cook for like 10 minutes. Crack a couple eggs and let them poach in the beans. Serve with cheap bread or tortillas. All very cheap ingredients. And it's super high in protein, so it's filling and healthy. You can also saute in any veggies you have sitting around or put in whatever spices you have lying around. Edit. A couple of people are mentioning shakshuka. That's where I got the inspo from for this dish. My boyfriend doesn't like tomatoes, but we love Tex-Mex flavors, so I made up this altered version for us.